DWI stop in Sag Harbor back in June 2020, for it looked like it was already wrapped up. AP reported it was resolved with a lesser plea. But now the drama is back, and it's not about a new arrest. It's about body cam footage. This is a New York foil fight. The public wants access to government records, and Timberlake's side wants a video blocked or heavily redacted, arguing privacy and reputational harm. So here's the real question. Is body cam for transparency or for the internet to manufacture memes? And just to be clear, DWI isn't funny. We're talking about a records release dispute. Like and subscribe, and let's break down both sides fairly. This started in June 2024 in Sag Harbor, New York, when Justin Timberlake was pulled over and the case proceeded under DWI/DWI-related allegations. After that, the story cooled off because the legal side was resolved. AP reported Timberlake accepted a lesser plea, driving while impaired, with the usual fines and requirements. So to be crystal clear, this is not a new arrest, and it's not the criminal case suddenly reopening. What brought it back in 2026 is something very modern. People filed FOIA requests, that's New York's Freedom of Information law, asking for the body cam footage. FOIA generally gives the public a right to request government records, but it's not unlimited. Agencies can withhold or redact parts of records when releasing them would cause an unwarranted invasion of privacy or fall under other legal exceptions. And that's the real center of this story. Timberlake's side isn't arguing guilty or not guilty anymore. That part is essentially settled. They're arguing whether the video should be released at all, and if it is, how much should be redacted. One side says transparency. The other says privacy and the risk of public humiliation. And from here, the fight moves away from the roadside and straight into the courtroom and the internet. Here's where this turns into a very familiar celebrity move. They're not relitigating the stop itself. They're fighting whether the footage should be released. Timberlake's team filed a petition asking the court to block the body cam video from being made public, or at the very least, to require heavy redactions before anything gets released. The core argument is straightforward. Releasing the footage would cause serious, hard-to-repair reputational harm, and it would expose private details in a way they say isn't necessary for the public interest. In plain terms, they're basically saying, this won't be watched to evaluate police procedure. It'll be watched to clip, meme, and embarrass. And staying neutral here is important. That argument isn't automatically wrong, and it isn't automatically right. Body cams exist for accountability, but they can also become public entertainment. The real question is, how much of this footage actually serves the public interest? And if it's released, how much should be redacted? According to reporting, the heat comes from the scale. The body cam footage in question is described as more than 8 hours, spanning from the roadside interaction through later stages after the arrest. And the authorities' posture isn't simply we're hiding everything. The reporting indicates they're dealing with multiple FOIA requests and expecting to release a redacted version under New York law, meaning the public likely wouldn't get an unedited, unblurred, everything cut, but version with sensitive parts removed. From Timberlake's side, the logic is consistent. Even if the purpose of body cam is transparency, releasing hours of footage can easily become internet content, where the most shareable seconds drown out all context. Their concern isn't just privacy in the abstract. It's the reality of selective clips and public humiliation. So the battleground becomes redaction. If officials redact too much, people will say it's not transparency. If they redact too little, it becomes a reality show. And at the time of the reporting, the court process was still in motion, not a final, settled ruling with a clean yes/no outcome. FOIL is New York's public records law. In general, it leans toward disclosure. People can request records to understand how government agencies operate. But FOIL is not a blank check for turning private moments into public entertainment. The law also allows agencies to withhold or redact parts of records when releasing them would cause an unwarranted invasion of personal privacy, or when other legal exemptions apply. So with body cam footage, the real-world outcome is often not release or don't release. It's release what serves the public interest and redact what doesn't. That means blurring faces, removing sensitive audio, and cutting out details that don't help the public evaluate how officials did their job. And that's why this dispute isn't really about a celebrity trying to erase a case. It's about where the line should be drawn between transparency and privacy, especially in an era where a 10-second clip can travel farther than the full context ever will. This is the part that makes the story both sensitive and worth discussing. The criminal side of the incident was essentially resolved back in 2024. So we're not talking about the court suddenly restarting the case. We're talking about what happens when footage becomes a new headline. A plea deal is paperwork. It flares up for a news cycle, then most people move on. But body cam video is different. One short clip, even 7 seconds, cut at the worst possible moment, can live online for years, get reposted forever, and follow someone into every comment section like a permanent label. That's why, in situations like this, celebrities often fight hardest over release and redaction, not because it changes the legal outcome, but because it can change the public outcome. The reputational cost, sponsorships, partnerships, tour optics, brand trust, can last longer than any fine or court requirement. But the other side has a real argument too. Body cams aren't just celebrity content, they're a transparency tool. Some people want to see footage to evaluate whether the stop was handled properly, whether procedure was followed, and whether anyone gets treated differently because they're famous. So the neutral question becomes, when the purpose is accountability, how much footage is truly necessary for the public interest, and how much becomes entertainment? And if a video can be both, who decides where that line is drawn? This content is commentary based on publicly available reporting. It is not legal advice, and it is not intended to defame anyone. I'm taking a neutral approach by presenting the key arguments on both sides and encouraging respectful discussion.